no matter what you do in life, no matter what you do, not everybody's going to rock with you. And the sooner that you come to a realization of that, the better, the more content, the more successful you will be.
Right.
Some things just don't deserve energy. You got to understand this music career. I mean, there was plenty of people that are like, I might, that's not, it don't pay the bills. They don't, they don't do this. And I saw this 10 years ago when nobody else did.
Right.
And I've had a few people that come along and they're like, no, you need to keep going. You need to keep going. One was my wife. She's like, there's too many people counting on this. Even when times when I wanted to quit and give up. Honestly, I don't think God would have let me quit. He said, look, I'm like cultivating something here. I'm building something.
Right.
I know you want it now, but you just wait. Right. Just wait.
Yeah.
I got something for you.
It's the Highest Point Podcast.
More than a pod, it's a lifestyle.
Yo. Welcome to the Highest Point Podcast. This is a podcast for everyone, no matter where you're from, no matter what you've been through. You know you deserve the best and willing to put in the work for progress to reach the highest point. So if you're about that lifestyle, making today better than yesterday, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and become part of the family. We welcome you. And speaking of making the day better than yesterday, we have a very, very special guest in the building. A man that not alone that was out here selling drugs, he also experienced drug addiction. He experienced rejection, turmoil, all type of things, but he didn't allow those things to become his demise. He actually used those things to propel him and his career. We have Mr. Rare of Breed in the building.
What's up, brother?
What's happening, Booster, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for the intro, bro. It's been a journey.
Absolutely. And one thing I left out, he's one dope ass rapper.
I appreciate it.
Super dope. And y'all know when I say that, I mean it. We don't play no games here at the Highest Point Podcast. And one thing I want to go ahead and do right now, when I say it, we're going to back it up. Let's go ahead and jump right into the music, because a lot of things that happen to us in these ups and downs in life, different chapters, we don't understand it. And in this track, he talks about it. Let's get it. Let's go.
If you carry a heavy burden, lay it down and put it back in his hands. I'm here to tell you at your lowest, you can know that he's still working when you don't understand. When we 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 don't understand. Hey. I know that it's harder to recognize it when you're going through something that's got you down. I used to get angry, but not today. Today I'ma pray and surrender the doubts. I'm hearing the chatter, the devil's been talking, but you can't let that get inside of your head. It may be a mess, but there is a message. One day you'll see it and understand. We've been battling something we cannot control, carrying things that we need to let go. Open your heart and surrender it now. It may be the heaviest weight on your soul. I'm talking to someone that may need to hear it. I've been in your shoes and I've driven the road. Don't let it consume you, don't battle alone. That type of depression's a slippery slope. Wake up, anybody wanna talk about it? I'm right here. Never beat around the bush, I promise that I've been clear. Walk through the valley of the shadows of the creek without a paddle, but I made it out. Oh, I've been there. Woo. If you're dealing with a lot, I get there. You ain't gotta do it on your own. That line is open when you pray, just grab your phone. If you carry a heavy burden, lay it down and put it back in his hands.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you at your lowest, you can know that he's still working when you don't understand. When you don't understand.
A lot of us going through that right now.
That's right.
Experiencing things we don't understand.
When we don't understand.
But like he said, man, put it in God's hands. He got you.
Don't understand.
Let's go.
Hey, I'm going back and forth. I want to figure this out. Do I need to make a turn to take a different route?
Man, that's hard.
Yeah, man.
That's so hard right there, man.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, we appreciate that music.
Yeah, that song hit. That song hit for a lot of people. That song hit for a lot of people when I put it out, because a lot of people were going through that. They understood.
Absolutely.
It was relatable,
Absolutely. And this is coming from the album God Twang.
Yeah, this right here is on the new album God Twang 2. So
God Twang 2.
God Twang's out, and the sophomore release of that is going to come out next month.
Okay, dope. So when does the God Twang 2 come out?
Man, that's a good question. Our plans are not God's plans. The beginning of the year, I was like, man, we're going to drop this in March, just like God Twang last year. But, the minor details at the end is always the one that trips you up. So
absolutely. The
goal is May 13th. That's the goal. That's what I'm standing on. So that's what we're going to shoot for.
Right. Hey, and he put it in God's hands like he did with so much more.
Yeah, man.
And it's gonna come out at the best time as usual. And I just really related to that track when I was listening to it. It's something that I would also play for my son.
Yeah.
You know, when we just cruising or something like because a lot of times that's why music is so important. Artists can articulate some things that we feel but we can't put into words. And that's one thing that I noticed that you have that gift. As well, you can speak for many by just telling your truth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So how do you get to that point where you feel comfortable telling your truth?
Yeah, I mean, words have power. Words have power. I don't think a lot of people understand just how powerful they are. You know what I'm saying? But a negative word can do a lot and a positive word can do a lot.
Right.
But I think when you've really gone through it, when you've gone through those seasons of struggle, you've gone through those seasons, and just coming out of those seasons and understanding, when we get to a point to know that there are a lot of people out there just like us,
Right.
dealing with issues at home, dealing with issues, relationships, faith, everything.
Right.
When we talk from that space, a lot of people can hear that and be like, wow, I get this.
Absolutely.
You know? And then young kids too, even if they don't, we were talking about it in the car, a lot of young people, they're sponges, man.
Right.
They pick up, they understand more than we even think they do. You know,
Absolutely.
they'll pick up these words, and if the hook is dope, right, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm bobbing my head." So, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And one thing about our show, man, we like to talk about the process because so many times people look at you right now, they're seeing the end result, you know.
Sure.
But you didn't start off where you are now.
Yeah.
You had to go through some things, you know. A lot of things where sometimes people have gave up.
For
You
sure.
didn't.
For sure.
So let's go back from the beginning. Let's get a little insight of how you got to this point, because we already know you been building a great fan base. You've been doing tours, and just being an inspiration to a lot of others.
Yeah.
But you know, you wasn't this man before.
No.
So can we talk a little bit about where you're from and some of your upbringing?
Yeah, it's been a journey. Like I said earlier, but I went into foster care when I was 8 years old with my siblings. We lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then me going into foster care was really a definitive moment in my life, and my siblings, obviously. But my grandparents ended up taking me, and they raised me. They took me down to the coast of North Carolina, which is where I grew up. But I grew up in a small town, Stella, North Carolina, like, tobacco fields. And
Oh, yeah.
So I went from Charlotte, you know what I'm saying, inner city, to a really small town with railroad tracks and, backwoods.
Right.
Which I feel like also defined me as an artist, being in those spaces. But, my story is definitely one of redemption and change,
Right.
When I went to my grandparents, I remember they used to take me to a therapist, and they're like, hey, I was a quiet kid, if you can believe it from the music you hear now.
Right.
But they were like, man, we need you to talk about what you're going through and lay that out. So I didn't really open up about that, but my therapist gave me a notebook, and she said, one thing that I've seen with kids like this is if they don't voice theirs, a lot of times they write it down.
Right.
So what she didn't understand, maybe she did understand, was that notebook changed my life. I began to write, stories, poetry, eventually turned into lyrics. That was my escape.
Absolutely.
That was my escape. So, but as we fast forward, I get into high school, I got addicted to prescription medications. I was smoking weed all the time. And, I'm going to school, I'm in classes, just zoned out, when I was a sophomore, I got kicked out of high school. I went to a military academy and, basically a second chance school, like a boot camp.
Right.
And went through all of that. I got out, got caught up with the same crowd. You are who you hang around with. That's a big thing.
Big.
Started hanging out with the same crowd, ended up going to jail. And by this point, I guarantee you a lot of people wrote me off. They counted me out. They're right. Stay away from this dude. He's bad news. But I like to say that God didn't finish writing my story right there.
Right.
Like, that was just a chapter. Like, he was turning the page.
Absolutely.
He never left me. So I got out, and that's when I really started doing music. Now, hip hop, it's funny because I was saying it earlier. Hip hop, I loved hip hop ever since I was a kid. But my dad and my uncle, they played country and soft and rock, classic rock and bluegrass. So I kind of had all of those roots when I was doing music. First got into a studio when I was 18. Really got serious. Ended up getting a manager and the A&Rs and started with labels and stuff like that,
Right.
man. And I really just. What I saw in the music industry at that point, you know what I'm saying? It didn't feel right in my spirit. Like I just didn't have a good feeling about it.
Okay.
And and that was part of my journey. Started to venture. 3 years later, man, somebody told me shared the gospel with me. And my grandma used to, our grandma, they tell us about Jesus growing up.
Right.
Mom tells us about it, right? We go to church sometimes,
Yeah.
But for me to have a relationship with him, to have an encounter with him is what absolutely changed my life. So when I was 21, I met my now wife, and we both went to church one day. We were going through a Food Line parking lot. This lady stopped me, and she's like, "Hey, brother." I'm like, this is a complete stranger, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, who are you? And she's like, "No, I just want to let you know I love you." And I was like, that's hard for me to fathom, because I feel like the people that were supposed to love me, they didn't do what they were supposed to do growing up. So it was hard for me to understand what the definition of love was. And she said, "I love you because Christ loves you." And she gave me a card, and she said, "You come worship with us anytime." And I was hard-headed, man. 2 weeks, that thing sat in my cup holder. But that thing was, it was working on me. He was working on me. And I remember one morning I was working a third shift job. Anybody working third shift jobs, you get off early. I mean, you go to work late, you're tired. It was a Sunday morning. It was like 5 a.m. I get back home. I'm wrestling like in the front yard. I'm like, man, I ain't going, and I'm stubborn. And, but that's where I was supposed to be. And, I made that change. I walked in, I woke my wife up and said, "We're going." I said, we can't live like this anymore. We're broken. And I know who can put us back together. So we went, and, that moment changed my life. So it's funny, when I got saved, man, somebody came up to me about 6 months later. He was like, "Hey, bro, I heard you were a rapper." And I'm like, where'd you hear that at? And he said, "No," he's like, you could do this in the church, and I'm like, nah. And I'm like, "You're tripping." Like, I didn't know anything about Christian rap or anything. He said, "No, I'll tell your story." He's like, "Tell your story. You can change lives if you tell your story."
Absolutely.
So that's where it transitioned. And that's kind of, the last 10 years, 10 years later, 12 years later, I'm here. And all of those years were definitive moments. All of those years were preparing me for where I'm at now.
Absolutely.
If I would have gotten, the quote unquote success that I have now 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for it. Mentally, I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have been as mature enough to handle the situations that I am now. So, and obviously my sound changed a little bit. I began to find out exactly who I was, where the rare breed comes from, not being like everybody else. I kind of looked at all of these lanes and these highways, and I saw this land, and I was like, no, I'm going to knock these trees down, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to build.
Absolutely. That's so important.
So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, so important, man. And and that's an amazing story, amazing overview. But let's dig deep into also some of the specifics as well.
Okay.
Because when people hear that story, like how you got addicted to prescription medication, what type of prescription medication it was?
Yeah, I mean Oxycontin, everything, hydrocodone. I mean, everything. What was interesting was my grandparents. My grandpa had it all, because they're older. So for me, I had like a pharmaceutical, company in the bedroom. So, I would get hooked on anything and everything. I mean, I would take anything that would help me escape what I was going through. So even sleeping pills, like I would just take anything. Right. You know what I'm saying?
So no one gave it to you. It was just out of curiosity. So about how old were you when you first pop your first pill?
I was about 13 or 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you initially tried, and then once you did, you was going through something. Then you just go back for that same thing over
and that's
over.
What happens,
Yeah.
Or I'd be smoking weed. I'd be baking out the shed and stuff, and I'm like, man, I want to feel this even more, and that's how it's a slippery slope, right?
Absolutely.
And then I'm again, selling those, pills to other people at school, and it was a bad, situation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So other people that's listening, someone young, they feel the urge to try a prescription medication or something to try to get that escape. What's something you would say to them?
Yeah, it's not worth it. I think a lot of times the reason we do this, once again, is to escape.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Let's think about why. Like, why would you do this? Is it peer pressure? Okay, then that's one thing we can talk about.
Right.
Is it another thing where you're going through some emotions where you're trying to navigate those and you're like, well, I just want to block these out, numb these things, which, I guarantee you it's a lot better to address those and unpack those, because later on down the road you're going to, and you don't want to waste your life doing that. Trying to, I don't know how many people, pretty much everybody you can talk to who've gone down that road. They're like, man, I wasted so much of my life searching for something that I thought was there. And it was a placebo. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And that thing, when you say escape, a lot of times we try to escape instead of dealing with our trauma.
Yeah.
And and that's one thing I feel like I'm hearing. It's like let's not try to escape it. Let's deal with our trauma. Like you've done something that many of us don't do, and that's have therapy. About how old were you when you first had therapy?
As soon as I went to my grandparents, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. They put me in therapy. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those things. And I know therapy can be kind of a stigma thing, right?
Right.
Where we're like, oh, well, well, that means I have a problem or something.
Right. Oh, he crazy. He need therapist.
Right.
That's not the case.
It's not, and it's important, man. It's important. It's important because, if you keep that stuff trapped up, which, I tend to do all this. I know I'm not alone on that.
Right.
You bury that stuff. You got to let that out. You got to be able to talk in a space.
Absolutely, man. You're so right.
Yeah.
You're so right. And I love that story. And also something else. I know you were saying that your wife, when you first had that encounter with that older woman in the parking lot, were you married at the time?
I wasn't.
Okay. So you had to have some groundwork as well with your wife in order for her to follow you to that church. Because a lot of cases, that don't happen like that.
Yeah.
So you had to have been working on yourself to some point to even, take that initial step.
Yeah.
What are some things because it's been a gradual process. What are some some points in your life that been helping you in this progressiveness?
Thankfully, I had a couple people in my life who were good influences. Once again, you are who you hang around. I had a couple people in my life at that point who were, they were believers and they were sharing the word with me. And it was me, I was just like, I don't want to hear that I'm doing what I'm doing, right. But they kept feeding me and they kept planting seeds. And a lot of times, we don't understand what those seeds do until they start to take root and still they start to grow. And then my wife, man, she was broken too, and I think there's a story, broken people find broken people,
right.
And she needed it too. We both just had an urge, man. We knew we needed it, and it was actually, I sat in the parking lot. I got to the church, man. And I was like sitting in the car and I'm like, I'm not going in. And she's like, no, you got me out of bed. We're going into this church.
Right.
So I give her so much credit, and I give her credit on the next album too. She's just such a rock, such a foundation.
Shout out to her.
Me. Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell that she's been a rock for you.
She has.
And you guys been a rock for each other. It's so important. That's what a marriage is. I've been married to my lady. We've been about 2 years now. How long you been married?
10 years this week.
10 years.
Yeah,
awesome.
man. Out here. So
yeah.
thankful.
And that's another thing that's changing as well. Like marriage is cool. It used to be like when artists come out, they had to hide their relationships. But relationships is what makes us so strong.
Preach, man. Preach.
Not alone with our significant other, the people you hang around with. You already said multiple times that's so important, and we want to make sure the audience understand. If you're looking around your circle and nobody in that circle actually motivates you to do anything better, you're probably in the wrong circle.
Yeah.
So with that said, I want to just go ahead and transition into the next track, and this one you're getting real lyrical with. I believe it's like the warm up.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's jump right into that because you said some bars in there that hit me, and I want to expand on.
Yeah, this thing started out as a challenge, and I don't do too many of them, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna hop on this one and I'm gonna give them some. And it's truth, you know what I'm saying? No matter how you're brought up, where you from, I mean, you can listen to this and you're like, yeah, well, you ain't lying. So, right.
This is the first track of yours that I sent to one of my homeboys that got on you. But we'll talk about that. Let's get it.
I don't think they understand that you really do this, right? It's more than the title, it's more than the name. It's
God Twang.
Hey, let them know what it is, bro.
If you never heard the flow, then let me introduce you, give it to you proper. Every time I drop a verse, I got permission from the Father. Everybody sounds the same, I feel your lane is overcrowded. I've been doing this for years, some days I feel like Bobby Bowden. I don't have to cuss on records just to make my statement known. Every message we constructed is to fix a broken home. I know killers, I know dealers, I know folks who beat addiction. I've seen people at their lowest finding Jesus up in prison. That's the realest thing you ate today, so here's another portion. They say COVID's killing, turn around and advocate abortion. It's an independent movement, I don't mess around with corporate. Keep the label, keep the genre, keep thinking you're that important. I didn't have to spend a dime, all of this has been organic. If you're paying for your fans, you will never understand it. Lock the door, build your room, stay comfortable, don't expand it. But don't hate when you peek out the blinds and see we built a mansion.
Now that's what I'm talking about right
man, he
there,
going
boy.
in on him.
If they ain't know
He
then
going
they
in
gon'
on
know
them,
it
people.
now. And
Let's
the thing
go.
is, we ain't even done yet.
Sound the alarm.
It's the warm-up, baby.
Hey.
Been a veteran for years, but making noise like I'm a rookie. Since 04, I had the flow in this been cold, so grab a hoodie. We got people scratching heads like, where'd he come from? Who is this? How did I miss it? Well, frankly, you get overlooked when you admit you're Christian. Let me tell you something, that don't mean mean I'm weak or second class. That just means I found redemption and forgiveness from my past. If you hate on that, that's fine, but you can't disregard the bend. If you step up in the comments, welcome to the Lions Den. Man, my fan base is amazing, it's remarkable to see. It's what happens when you let an underdog up off the leash. This right here is simply training, this a warm-up, this is practice. It's a fire that's been spreading. If you want it, grab some matches. If they say they run the game, I'm 99 when you play Madden. Michael Jordan in the fourth, you can bet it's automatic.
And just like that, it's easy word. Yeah, album on the wave, you ain't know.
God, Twang. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You went in on that.
Yeah, I had to. I think some people, in making the albums too, we talked about in making the albums, I think some people forgot, like, that's how I get down. Like, that's how it started. Like, I used to battle people, like, to get in the club sometimes, like, on the outside. And, you get into songwriting, which is a different thing, which I love. But I was like, you know what? Let's get busy, for a minute, so.
Oh, yeah, you let them know. know. When you said they say COVID killing, but turn around and advocate abortion.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, what's the difference, people?
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was digging that. It's a really, really unique perspective and way to put it. Can you expand on that at all? Because I haven't heard no bar like that before.
It's just, what's the agenda? I feel like there's always an agenda. It's like, you have to believe this or you have to believe this. And I'm like, look, if we look at it for brass tacks, you know what I'm saying? You're saying this, but I'm saying this over here isn't right. You know what I'm saying? So I can make my own decisions, and we can all make, it's the same thing with, we can even talk about vaccinations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you should have a choice to whether you do things like, you shouldn't be controlled. It's for the people, by the people, it's, so it was one of those things, I think a lot of people were like, yeah, that's
for
real.
Sure. Even like that, when you was talking about the vaccination choice.
Yeah.
I work for this corporate big company or whatever, and they sent out an email saying basically, if you don't get this vaccination, you're fired. I guess you still have a choice, but that means, but also by making this choice of not taking, that means I can't feed my kids.
You take the food out. Yeah.
So do you really have a choice?
It's tough. I've seen people on both ends. I've seen people, look, I know I got to do this, and I'm like, look, I respect your decision.
Yeah.
Family's got to eat.
Right.
And I've seen people who are like, I'm not doing this, and I'm gonna go out here on faith, and I'm just gonna do this, and I get it. You know what I'm saying? And that really comes down to, your personal convictions, your choice.
Right.
And like you said, that's a tough predicament to be in, right? But we shouldn't be put in that predicament.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's something we shouldn't have to decide.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's so important. I think it's a perspective that a lot of people are actually afraid to say. And I can tell you're a man of your faith because you're speaking your truth, how you feel. And I don't think no one should be ashamed of their opinion on anything.
Sure.
You're not out here preaching, saying that, hey, what I feel is right. You're just saying, this is what I feel. You know what I mean? And I think everyone should have that right to be able to say that.
I agree.
Something else that you said on that, you was talking about the independent movement.
Yeah.
You don't mess around with corporate. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like you're very, very, adamant about this independent thing.
It's interesting. Yeah. We were talking earlier. I've been independent my whole life, and laid the groundwork and worked really hard, and now have a sustainable, successful, you know what I'm saying? I feed my family with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make more than I made it a job at this, and all happen independently. We own everything, and talking to my brother earlier, I'm like, man, I've sat with labels.
Right.
I got a meeting with a label in 2 weeks, a major. And I'm like, it looks different now than it would have looked 10 years ago if I would have sat down with a label.
Absolutely.
Now if we're talking partnership or there may be some common things on the table, right? Then maybe we can look at something.
Right.
But you have to understand that I'm not coming to you and I'm not saying, oh, I need this.
Right.
I'm not looking for one.
Right.
But if we can all benefit from this in the right way,
absolutely,
it's possible. But yeah, shout out to the independent artists out there.
Yeah, man. Shout out to y'all, man. I salute all independent artists.
Yeah.
Just doing their thing and understand. You can't be fooled by this bag that they're presenting to you as well.
It has something attached to it,
big time.
It definitely does.
They can take all your rights away, and also understand this bag. That's a loan, people.
It is.
You're gonna have to pay all that back.
Speak it. Man.
You got. That's why I think it's so important for people to understand these type of things. So when I was listening to the warm up, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
he dropping bars all around in this.
Yeah.
He sound like he know what's going on. And also, this is something you built off your back. You just can't give it away
Right.
to someone. So if we're gonna work together, cool, but you're not gonna own me. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I love that, man, and respect that. And I know some great things are coming your way.
Yeah.
I speak that on you for real.
Amen.
God Twang.
They are. Hey, there it is. There it is.
So speaking of God Twang, can we talk about where did this come from? What is God Twang?
Yeah. Isn't that such a great question? It's like the $1 million question. I feel like I get that often. God Twang. So a lot of people on the surface are going to say, when they listen to the music, they're going to say, okay, I hear hip hop, I hear country, I hear these influences. So on the surface, this is God Twang, right? For me, first being God, my music is going to have faith in it. Twang is really came down to the way I sing. You know what I'm saying? I never thought I was the best singer, but when I came down to sing, the range that I sing from, it started to get twangy. And I think that was part of my roots, man, where I came from,
Country boy.
Yeah. And so being able to blend those two, but not even fit in one genre or another. So I remember calling my boy, I was like, man, this music is changing. And I feel like this is what I need to do. I feel like God has me exactly where he wants me to do it. And I said, but it's not really country rap, kind of. It's not, and that's, it doesn't really fit Christian rap either. I said, I'm going to call it God Twang. And he's like, for real? I'm like, yeah, we're going to call it God Twang. And I said, I think it encompasses everything. And I had a conversation with a fella in Louisiana when I did a show down there. And he came up to me. He said, man, some people think God Twang is like a style. Some people think God Twang is a genre. He said, for me, it's a way of life, bro. He's like, for me, it's a way of life. He's like, I found my faith. He's like, I needed music that fed my spirit. He's like, but I'm from the country too, man. He's like, I love hip hop. He's like, this right here is like my anthem. This is my flag that I'm waving, so it's a lot, to some people.
Right.
And I think when you hear it, you'll get it.
Absolutely. And when I was listening, man, I said,
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
There you go.
But I like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the conclusion that I came to, like, because everyone, that's one thing that's great with music, man.
Yeah.
Everybody formulates their own opinion, and they just,
They
just
do.
makes their own.
It's subjective, right? So everybody preference. So somebody's gonna hear it and say, "Oh, I think it's this," or
right. Or they even like through your verse that things gonna stick out to them differently to individuals. And me, I felt like it was like a dialect. It was like I know the twang is like it sounds southern, but it's like a dialect that can be across nations, across countries. If you have that same ideal, you understand that movement, you understand the ideology of it. It's like, that's what I felt like. It's like God Twang is like a dialect that if you relate to it, you speak it.
It's almost
it's like
a language. Yeah,
right.
that's powerful.
Like
To
just
think
like
about
you
it
say,
that.
speaking in tongue.
Yeah,
that's what kind of like God Twang. That's what I feel from it. Like someone speaking in tongue. That's like also parallel to God Twang, and they understand and relate to your language.
there you go.
So yeah,
I should have asked you what you thought it was first. I would have broke it down.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
I like
So,
that. I like that.
Everybody just grabs something different from it, but
They will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dope though, man. It's super dope.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something else. When I was looking on your social media, you had this story. I believe you have a daughter.
I do. Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
So my daughter, she's 11.
Oh wow.
I got two boys, and I got 6 and 9, and I got a daughter who's 11.
Okay.
Yep.
And you had a very awesome message in that, and
Yeah.
and it's something that I try to talk to my son about often. She came up to you. She was talking about one of your videos, and she said you got some dislikes on this. It was like 10 dislikes.
Yeah.
And can you let the people know what your message was to her about that?
Yeah, she came up to me. She's like, Dad, and it's funny how people look at things. She was like, Dad, this thing has 10 dislikes. And I looked over and I'm like, yeah, but it's got 10,000 likes, And I said, it's funny that you focus on this.
Right.
And I said, even people, adults too,
Right.
they can go straight to something and see that. And it's like, that doesn't tell the whole story. Right. No matter what you do in life, no matter what you do, not everybody's going to rock with you. And the sooner that you come to a realization of that, the better, the more content, the more successful you will be.
Right.
Some things just don't deserve energy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at those people who do support it. There are obviously a vast amount that are like, wow, this is changing my life. That's where it should go,
Absolutely.
But anything you do, guys, there's going to be somebody. You got to understand this music career. I guarantee you everybody around me wasn't like, oh, man, keep going. You're going to do this, I mean, there was plenty of people that are like, I might. That's not, it don't pay the bills. They don't, they don't do this. And, but I saw the vision of it.
Right.
And
Where would you be if you listened to them?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people quit. I've seen a lot of people. And I'll say this, I partly understand, right? Because if there's something, I mean, you have to provide for your family. You have to do these things, right? but there is a way that you can, if there's a way you can make it and do your passion, if you can, it's really vision, man. I saw this 10 years ago when nobody else did.
Right.
You know, and I've had a few people that come along and they're like, no, you need to keep going. You need to keep going. One was my wife. She's like, there's too many people counting on this. Even when times when I wanted to quit and give up,
Right.
I wanted to lay it down. I wanted to listen to those people who were telling me that. But it was a couple of people around me who were like, you got to keep going. And honestly, I don't think God would have let me quit. You know, he said, look, I'm like cultivating something here. I'm building something.
Right.
I know you want it now, but you just wait.
Right.
Just wait.
Yeah.
You know, I got something for you. So keep pushing. But make sure you're hitting the target, guys. Like, don't go out here and do something that, you know, really find out, you know, what you're supposed to be doing. I know a lot of people who put a lot of energy into stuff that, you know, not supposed to be doing, and they could be the best at something else.
Right.
If they can just find that.
Yeah.
Make sure you find out what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and drive forward. So
Absolutely, man. And the thing is, with that like and dislike thing, you got to find your audience. Those people that dislike it,
So true.
That's just not your audience.
That's right.
And that's cool.
yeah,
But you got all these other people that's, you know, that's love what you're doing. But we always, it seems like for the majority part, if what someone say negative is what sticks out the most. But we don't allow all of those positive things to bring us up. You know, that negative just overwhelms the positive. And
Right.
we want to, we want to rechannel our focus. And in the beginning, you might not get any type of response. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Like he said, 10 years ago, he saw this happening. 10 years. So that's a long time ago. So
That's
you
a
got
long
to also
time.
have faith in what you have going on. There was a voice talking to you already. That's God. So you got to listen to that. Everything don't happen overnight. You know, masterpieces are built in time.
so true.
And that's what you've been working on. Every album that you dropped since when did you start dropping your first album?
2011, maybe.
Yeah, 2011. I listened to his album back in 2011 to now. I just see these chapters folded in this book, and I'm just getting more interested as I go. So looking forward to God Twang 2, man. Part 2 is coming.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming. And it's something special.
Yeah, for sure.
That's for
And
sure.
even talking about God Twang 2, it was another track that I had as well. I want to go ahead and just bounce into, man, before we get out of here. This is one I also let my son hear.
Yeah, God Knows is on one, but God Knows is a staple. God Knows came out, and it's been a staple. I think it's maybe 1.7 million on YouTube. It popped, you know, and it was kind of I think that was kind of one that was a staple for God Twang.
Right.
That kind of, you know, kept the train rolling.
Yeah. And y'all capitalize on that. So this is on, if you want to hear this album right now before it starts, before this part 2 come out, this is on there. So make sure you go ahead, lock in, and then just subscribe to what he got going on so you don't miss when part 2 drop.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get it.
God Twang. Yeah. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road. Be careful who you're following. I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. God knows you don't have to be like everybody. It's a broad road. Be careful who you're following.
Be careful who you follow.
I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. I travel the road with some people don't make it out, but we emerge. Everyday battle, I'm fighting my demons. Live on the promises found in the word. Get rid of doubt, that can be cancer. If you let it seep into your mind, no matter the problem, I carry the answer. It's a fact, he's always on time. I never had a halo, but I got love for the people. Driving around, looked up, saw steeple. Walked inside, right down to the altar. Raised my hands, oh God, I need this. Handing me the word, young man, you read this. What about sin, my son? I bleed this. Grab that mic right there, get busy. Give them truth, that's all they'll see it. Back in the building, we bringing the virus. And everyday walk, we will never retire. Don't have to be Sunday for you to get blessed. Turn on the record, you'll think it's a choir. No Kanye, but I've been through the wire. We've all had a struggle, we gotta get through. You ain't gotta be like everybody, believe it and see. You just gotta be you. God knows you don't have to be like everybody.
You ain't gotta be like everybody.
It's a broad road, be careful who you're following.
Yeah.
I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again. God knows you don't have to be like everybody.
Never
it's
that.
a broad road, be careful who you're following.
Yeah.
I'm so in love with what you done in my life. There's no way I think I ever could go back again.
I know heaven and hell, and I can tell.
Oh, man, that joint dope.
Yeah.
That joint dope.
It hits.
And it's just so true, man. It's like, it's something we even alluded to earlier. You gotta be careful who you're following. That circle, it's just so important.
It is.
Can we talk a little bit about what message you had in this one?
Yeah, God knows you don't have to be like everybody. Like, once again, be careful who you're following. Like, he has made you different. He has made you set apart. Like, everything is not for you. You have something that is for you.
Right.
You need to find out what that is. But, and it talks about, it's got my testimony in there.
Right.
Just finding out who I was, finding out, who God made me to be. And I actually had my brother, Smo, on there, formerly Big Smo, and that's he graced the track. So it was good.
Oh yeah. He went in too, man. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
I checking him out in the video. I said, okay. I'm saying, like, I see OG got some swag over there.
He definitely got yeah. He's got that raps. He got that, And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, when I have to, sometimes I have to hit that verse on stage, if he's not there, but I need to do the full track because people want to rock to it.
Right,
so
right.
They're like, God, and I can't just stop on the first verse. So I'm like, I know heaven and, I'm trying to, by the end, I need lemon water,
I believe it.
So, but Smo's a good brother. He's a good brother. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I like his message in here as well, man. Like, it's dope. And
he was a staple. He was a staple in the country rap scene. Like, I mean, A&E, he had TV show, all that stuff. And when he heard God Twang, he hit me up. I was doing sound in church, and he was like, "Bro, this is a breath of fresh air." He's like, "Let's make a song together." And I was sitting there. I'm like, "Let's do it." So it's interesting how people in that space were like, "Bro, they love it." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then
yeah, man, that's
been
dope,
awesome.
man. That's what's up, man. And all those type of things are just falling in place.
They are,
Just falling in place. I mean, a lot of times in life, man, things just come to you out the blue. Like, I see how he pulled up on you. That woman in the parking lot just pulled up on you. And when those type of things come, we just got to have open arms to accept them. And then once you guys accept them, you can see the impact it can have on your life. And he done spoke his testimony and see how all these things have been a big impact on his life, man. And I just see greatness just continuing to go for you, man. I just want you to keep pushing forward, pushing this message out because it's so important.
Amen.
This sound is so important, man. Anything else you want to let the people know before we end it out?
Yeah, man. I mean, just the weekend, the weekend in itself, man. I just like to reflect on what Christ has done for you. It's Easter weekend. And I think a lot of people, they say, oh, it's Good Friday, I'm off work today or something like that. But just understand the sacrifice that was made for you, that he loves you. He loves you. It doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter where you're at. He loves you. He accepts you. And so I think that's the biggest thing, man, that, God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That was the message that changed my life. If you listen to my music, you love it. That's the message. That's the message I want to give you, especially this weekend.
Absolutely. And hey, this episode is a pamphlet, just like that pamphlet that woman gave him in the parking lot. This is Rare Breed's pamphlet to you all. So make sure you hold it whenever you want to reflect on it, pull up this episode, and just be inspired and blessed, man. So until next time, y'all hold it down. Don't let it hold you. Peace.
The Highest Point Podcast.
If you carry a heavy burden, lay it down and put it back in his hands. I'm here to tell you at your lowest, you can know that he's still working when you don't understand. When we don't understand. When we don't understand. When we don't understand. When we don't understand.